So let's see. Okay, the application I created has a lot of things that could be interesting to talk about here, but I wanted to focus on something. So I could talk about the different operating systems and how I manage the application to start seamlessly on all of them. About the fact that the application runs locally on the machine, although it runs a server. It's like a private web server for the user, which then has a web interface, okay? And also the fact that I wanted it to be downloadable, so it had to be a compact software suite. If I create more than one application and I have everything, this is done in Faro, so if I want to do everything with just one image, I want the user to be able to start different parts of the application. Like, I don't know if I think you know Microsoft Office, and you have the Word and Excel. Okay, I wanted to give the user the idea that he was starting different products, different binary files maybe, or shortcuts, but all the code base was in just one smalltalk image. Okay, so I also did that. But I don't have that much time. So let's just focus on the first two, and then if I have time, or maybe questions, or afterwards, between talks in the breaks, we can talk about the rest of it. So what do we need? Okay, first of all, you need Faro. Okay, for what I'm going to tell you, what I learned, I needed Faro because it's free, because I can deploy a customer application, I can commercially deploy it and sell it, and I don't have to, it's just trying to see if someone's interested in it, so it's a good idea to use Faro, and the things I learned will be based on Faro. Also, you need different operating systems with some help on them. You have Windows. I have now users used from Windows 98 to Windows 10, so different versions of Windows have been tested. A very useful tool if you want to do commercial product for Windows, well, not a company level product, but if you want to get your application and give it a professional feel, I used a lot this thing here. It's called Resource Hacker. It's an application for Windows. It allows you to change the icon of the application, so you can work with Faro, but then give your own icon, or to package different DLLs in Windows together with the exe file, so it gives a more compact feels to the application. Also, well, if you want to use Macintosh, I don't own a Mac, don't know much about macOS, so I recommend this tool. This chip here, it's Bruno Panelli. You have them here, please raise your hand. Okay, so if you need to do something and you're working with Mac, I recommend using that as a tool. It's very useful. You can call him anytime during the night and he'll help you. And well, for Linux, you can download Faro for Linux, and since Linux users tend to be, at least in my experience, a bit more computer friendly. I did not work that much on giving it a professional look with icons and stuff, because I knew that the Linux users would mostly want to know where there was a script to run the application. So I settled for that. You will see that it's the simpler one of the three. So some disclaimers. This work that I did started with Faro 3, now I'm using Faro 4. So some of the things that I tell you, maybe there are better ways to do them. Let me know if you know about them. There are other Smalltalk environments, of course. Faro still has a long way to go, but I had a very good experience turning my idea into a product that was accessible to the users. So other Smalltalk environments have a lot of deployment tools that somehow may make some of the things that I did unnecessary, but well, I didn't have them in Faro, but I had experience in the other environments. And of course, I want you to take this just as ideas. This is what I've done, and please improve on them and add them your own knowledge and let me know so we can all improve. That's the idea of this talk. So what do we have in Faro? Okay, if you want to deploy your development, I recommend taking a look at the image cleaner. Okay, it has some features to remove stuff that you may not want to leave in production for the user. So check it, review what it offers. It's not that complex, okay? Just look for the image cleaner in Faro. Then maybe you can subclass it if you require. I added some additional things, and I decided just let's subclass, add some additional packages that I want removed because I know I won't be using them. And also, please be sure to check the startup and shutdown list, which is a feature in Faro. About you give it some classes and they will then run the startup method, the class side method of the class, and then the shutdown when the application goes down. So it's a really easy way to get your application working. About the deployment process itself, if you have, you can work in Faro, create your ideas, your application, and then you want to give it to the user who won't be launching Faro itself and then the application from within. So there needs to be some sort of deployment process. First tip, reify it, okay? Please don't use just a script. Be sure to have classes representing the deployment, and it's better to have a class to version it, to see changes, to share it with other people. It's much better than just a deployment script. If you are doing something like what I did, you need to disable some development components. Don't leave, the menu hanging around for the user, the work menu or the debug, because first version, of course, I didn't know that, and they were accessible to the user. I was just spraying, they wouldn't find it. Redirect logging, be sure to, this is your general comments, I will show some examples now. Because Faro has a lot of logging files for the debug or for the missing classes or stuff like that. When it can find something, be sure to redirect everything to somewhere and give it like a professional look. Remember that the user does not know Faro or Smalltalk. And when in doubt, this is very simple, then you should learn more, but a great tip that I give myself, it's to, when in doubt, just compile. If Faro has something that you don't know, you don't want to happen, first thing that could work is just compile it, but as an empty method, okay? So it does nothing. You don't want Faro to, give warnings about deprecation because it's a production environment, okay? Just forgot about it. Just compile it to do nothing, and it's a good way to at least start it. Let's see. Just so you get an idea. Okay, so this is just so you see some of the code here, if Faro behaves. So as I said, please reify the deployment process and some examples of what you can do. You get the prepared image. For instance, if you want to set the backlog, you can, I know there are better ways to do this. I just want to make sure that even these simple things will help you. If I want to set the backlog name, I just compile it, okay, the default log file name to something else. Okay, as long as I know that Faro could be improved to have this configurable, but you don't need to wait for it or use or first prepare everything and then have this working. With just simple things like this, I can remove the idea that this is a Faro debug, and I said, no, it's my user log, I know. Or if I want to disable deprecation, I just said, okay, object, deprecated, or this other deprecated, okay, it's just do nothing, okay? Something else. Of course, after doing all of this, you should deploy save the deployed image. Just garbage collect, save as, okay, stuff like that. Every idea can start here, maybe just a simple compile this, and then grow into something else. So you don't have to start with everything in the best possible way. But don't wait to have that to start deploying your application, okay? So another thing that was very useful is the OS process package that Faro has. I recommend it because, well, this talk is about deploying anywhere. So you want to start a command in Windows. Okay, so just you say OS process, which is a class command, and then I say, okay, if Smalltalk OS is Windows, I want to do command start, and then whatever. I know since my application is a web application, the next parameter is always the local URL. Okay, so this guarantees that the browser, the default browser, will start no matter where this application is running. So the user starts in Linux, Mac, Windows. The behavior is exactly the same. You run the starting binary file, whatever, and then you will see your browser, and the interface is the same across different operating systems. So for multi-operating system development, this is more like tips, of course. Be careful with case sensitivity, because it's only relevant in Windows. If you prepare everything, you say, okay, it's working, I develop in Windows, and then I had a lot of headaches with this, because things will not work the same way in Mac or Linux. So take that into consideration, and it will be fine. Remember, the path separator is different between different operating systems, okay, the slash to one side to the other. So just use file system disk delimiter. I guess that some of you may already know this. The idea is so that everybody knows it as well. For reading files from disks, you should check the line length convention. You know, if it's a carriage region, the line feed, both. So Faro has a lot of these things already there. So just to the stream, you send line end convention. Say, okay, to the stream class, line end default. So that will most probably work in most installations. So let's talk about the directory structure. I wanted it to be deployed. I wanted it to be different. Of course, I needed it to be different, but I wanted it to keep as simpler as possible, because I needed to handle it myself and work once and then deploy it anywhere. Okay. So luckily, Faro has 3 different virtual machines. It has implementation, directory structure, and it solved most of it for me. So what I'm going to tell you is just, once you get that, you download it, you can create something like this, for instance. In Windows, you can just have the root directory with just the executable files for the application. Then, well, highly recommended, divide between a directory for user files and the application files. The user files, here we have configuration, database. In my case, I have XML files for the user information. Then the application files, you have the Faro image. Something that I liked was that in Windows, I was able to rename the image to that extension. So I guess to me it made it more like other applications, and is the process of giving it to the users. You have the Faro ini, which is very important. We'll see it in the next slide. The virtual machine, which here's an exe file, and the resources. Since my application is web, I have JavaScript, CSS, and everything in one place. Some other things in Windows. Remember to avoid invalid characters in the path. Some of my users had weird names with, I know, things that were not supported in Faro when reading from the disk. So if the user goes to, I know, username/downloads something and starts the application there, sometimes it wouldn't work. Remember that, at least until we have better support for that in Faro. The application, I mean, you can give your application a name and then reuse it in most parts. You can rename the VM, you can rename the image, you can rename the ini, and in fact, if you do all of this, it will work seamlessly, because Faro will know that it will have to take the files with the same name. Okay, so the ini file in Windows has some interesting things that can be applied. For instance, to tell it to run as a single application. So remember, my users are not very computer friendly. Maybe I wanted to be sure that if they already started the application and they started again, okay, same instance. I don't want them to have 4 servers running. You can give an image, I don't know if you can see this, but image file. You can tell it here that it's the app name that. You can change the window title, the dialog information when the user quits. Let's see that. So I have an example here. Okay, so you can see I have the exe file, application files, some resources. Here's the example that, the user files. So I just run it. Okay, this, of course, because I said single instance and Faro was already running. You see, I have the example there. I didn't disable the menu in this case, but well, this is just an example the real application does. So the idea is that the user will see the same if we manage everything right, no matter where they run it. Okay, so for the Windows icon, as I said, you have the Faro virtual machine. You design your icon. I just did it in a small time, of course. Then you use Rescue Hacker, and you will get the new, well, it's the same VM, but you can rename it, and you can have the icon you want. Also, if you have additional DLLs, you can pack them there with Resource Hacker. For Linux, in the root directory, you just can use the startup script there, which is a modified version of the startup script that Faro provides for Linux. And again, user files and the application files. Here, keeping with the Faro distribution, I had the VM inside the bin directory, and the image, I didn't find an easy way to give it the that extension, so it's just image extension as usual. So in Linux, the file names, okay, again, you can have your application name for the startup script, for the Faro VM, you can rename it and everything will be working. The image also with the name, and there's an ini file, but it doesn't get the same, all the commands that the Windows version does. The file with the application name, which is the startup script, just a bash script, you can change with the title argument inside of it, the title of your application. Also there are ways, I won't get into detail here, but you can specify the icon and the startup parameters for the VM. If your application takes startup parameters, you can indicate them there. Okay, for Mac, you will see a more complex structure. This is because we have an additional possibility in Mac OS, that is to have the application all contained in a directory, and Mac will realize that if you have the right structure, it will start it as an application. It's like kind of a compressed file that decompresses and automatically executes, something like that. So inside a directory name as your application with the app extension, you get the contents directory, Mac OS directory. This is the structure that Faro uses for Mac, with the Faro plugins directory and the Faro VM. A resources directory, which has the Faro resources for Mac, an icon file, this project information. Well, the user's files end up here. Okay, this ensures that then I can have, because of the location of the virtual machine related to where I start, related to where the image is, this guarantees that across the different versions, the user will have the same experience and have equivalent directory structure. Then the info plist file, which we will see in the next slide, and here the application files with the Faro image and the resources for the application. So in Mac, you have to name the directory as your application. And you can rename the Faro VM to the name of your application, the icon pack, which you can then edit and add different icons for your application, the image name, and the info plist file. This is an XML configuration file. There are a lot of things here, but the important is if you are creating your application and you wanted to configure some stuff, you can do it inside here, okay? So like the application name, the title, the name it will give in Mac when it's running for the process. You get to tell it the image file name, the Faro image file name, so it can find it, and also some information for the icons. Also in Mac, you have a lot of tools that allow us to give it a professional look for even a simple application that you can create. The fact that the directory can be named like your application, and the icon file will then load it, will make it everything transparent to the user. The Automator is a great tool that Mac has had for many versions. It allows me to create the startup scripts for different stuff, like migrating from one version to the other. The icon packs can be edited directly, and also I think one of the best tools was the fact that the Faro for Mac already had part of this structure already prepared, so it was a great teacher on how to create the application version in Faro, in Mac, sorry. So some acknowledgements, because I did all of this, but learning from different sources, of course, from internet and a lot of tutorials. So this talk is maybe a summary of different tutorials that I used, so you can know about them. So without Faro and Seaside, I wouldn't have an application, so that's the first thanks. And also I found that Faro has a lot of packages that allowed me to create a really great application, very complete, and the users are happy with it. So thanks to Fuel, I think Mariano was here somewhere. Mariano gave a lot of talks and worked a lot in Fuel, and it's helped me a lot with loading files and the configuration, and the database is basically in part using Fuel. So thanks for that. Renoir also, because it's the framework to create CSS files directly writing in Smalltalk, with Gabriel Cotelli gave 2 days ago the talk. Also, the OS processes I told you, and the pool parser, because I'm also using XML files. And also, the great tools that I had, Bruno, the Mac expert, and the resource hacker, because they made the application look quite more complete. So I'm not sure about the time, but I think I talked about stuff, so I have time to answer questions. Question?
So I have a question. So it's not clear to me if you wrote an installer, so you can just install automatically Rack, or you have to do all.
I took the Faro structure from the 3 platforms, and I adjusted it to what I showed. So now it's working. There was.
But the question is, if you want to produce applications this way, you could build an installer that creates.
Automatically create these structures. Yes, someone could take this, and I will be really happy and eager to help with that. Yeah.
Have you documented all this process online?
This talk is the first attempt at documenting what I've done. So I wanted to see what people thought about what I've done, to know how to improve on it, and maybe work together with more people to get it working. Yeah. Yeah. If there's interest, we will do that surely. Yeah.
Just to let you know, for the Power Launcher, I created an instance script for the Power Launcher on Windows. So they are using NSIS standard Windows stuff to create installers.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Mac, I created some. I don't remember the format, but something that installs .app install inside applications or useful drag and drop to the standard Mac stuff. And on Linux, I also created some packages for Debian and for Linux. And all this is automated. So I wrote script to generate all these installers for the Power Launcher. So we might want to share.
We can see how to connect the things. The structure is quite simple right now, at least for my application, which I deploy to the users. It's just a zip file in Linux and Mac, and when Mac automatically decompresses it, and since the name is the app extension, it works. And Windows have a self-extracting exe file, so the installation is quite straightforward. I don't know if that also answers. Yeah. It's not available in the fact that the application where I use all of this is not open source because it's a commercial application, but if there's interest, something that I want to do is to separate all of this to some open source projects so that others can benefit from it, of course, and so we can collaborate on that. Yeah.
Second question. I have seen a lot of students here said that you continue having over and over the same kind of problems when programming Faro. And basically, that's because you guys do not use the lists that we have to ask questions. For example, the replication problem that you have is just checking a settings and you solve it. And then you have a lot of problems to solve it because you don't know. So my question is, why do people do not use the list?
I mean, I've used some resources. Maybe for some of the things I could solve them and find them online. For others, this is just a hobby for me. So maybe the day that I was working on that, I had no internet connection and I solved it. I moved on. So.
We don't want the excuse.
Okay. He asked why, so I'm.
Because it's maybe for fun. So I want to know why you are not using it. I have seen it in a lot of people.
No, I know, for instance, that just compiling a method, it's not a good practice. But I did it, and at the moment it saved me a lot of effort. So I just wanted to share the idea that it's not okay to leave it that way, but it's okay to start that way. So you can move on and think and then continue improving on the application and sharing the ideas. For instance, use the list. Yeah. More questions? Okay.